Good evening. I'm here somewhere, and yeah, I think everything is going all right now. I obviously just getting everything ready. Yeah, kind of running late a little bit, but I already had to reschedule things for Friday until 10 p.m., and that's just kind of how it is. It's kind of a hectic day for now, but I do hope that changes in the near future. Anyway, music, yeah. So it actually turned out to be kind of a pretty normal week. There were actually some pretty good ones. I didn't have many situations. Like last Friday, when I started diving into new music, I found some enjoyable stuff pretty quickly, like within that first day. Throughout May now, the last few weeks prior to this last one, it's like the first 2 weeks or first 3 weeks of the month. So basically the majority of the month, I would like start listening to music for the week and just really have difficulty finding anything that was kind of memorable or worth listening to. Not to say that that didn't happen this week, but it happened a little bit later on. And most of the stuff that I listened to was quite enjoyable. So, yeah, I'm just going to get right into it. We have 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 13 albums. And actually, it probably would have been more. I just also didn't have as much time this week as I often do for whatever reason, just busy things here and there. There is, even though technically there's just a few days left of May, because most albums here in Russia release on Friday, there technically is basically like another week that's going to be largely dedicated to May music. So a lot of the stuff that I missed this last week, or that I started to listen to and didn't really kind of form any specific thoughts about, I'll be able to come back around to next week. But for now, let's get into it. I'm going to be opening with rap and hip hop, and then go to electronic music, then rock and metal, and then we're going to finish up with pop and indie. I also realized that in the YouTube title, I did not include any of the bands listed, so I'll be sure to go in and add that later on. But for those of you who are watching now for the stream, it'll be a mystery as to like who are the big titles this week. There are actually, I would say, a few. Looking at the tabs I have open, there are a few artists that I have seen before. One of them that I've actually listened to from last year that I really loved, and then quite a few new ones. But like I said, let's just get right on into it. I gotta make sure I have the sound on for my desktop. Okay, so there we go. Let's get that out of the way. All right, first up, we have so this is HIPMA. Again, I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, HIPMA. And Vesna is the EP. We have another entry from this group. They have been doing seasonal releases late last autumn. They did a release which was ooes, and then in March or late February, they did zima. So this is their spring EP. Last time it was winter that we heard from them. Beats were chill. This time around it's spring, so we got some fun, upbeat, light stuff. It's very positive. A lot of jazzy vibes for the weather. I actually kind of enjoyed it. There's some good storytelling, especially this song Plastик right here, which is about traveling through Russia on the train and the types of people that you see there, and kind of some of the stories that they're talking about. It's quite interesting. Not my favorite song, although I did think that lyrically there was some interesting stuff here. I thought the metaphor for spring being kind of a train car from winter to summer is not the best, but anyway, let's just jump in, give it a listen, and I think you'll catch some of the spring vibes.
Но для стабилизации эмоций дышите глубже. И не забудьте солнечные очки. Оставайтесь на нашей волне. Никуда не уходите.
Еду до вокзала мимо улиц, колец и геликов. Мой город самый первый в моем рейтинге. Наваливает братик Броука Беринга и довезет быстрее, чем Колумбы до Америки. Ух, меняй на бомбер, стиль побыть бездельником. Зима — это бактерия, весна — пшик антисептика. Мое турне до Питера, где-то на недельку бы. И небо освещает все неоны муравейников.
Classic hip-hop instrumentals in the background. But it's very light and... The lyrics too all focus around to that idea of like after a long Russian winter finally getting outside and like just the nature of people, and not just Russia too, like obviously any place that has long winter, that sort of spring vibe that comes when everyone can finally get outside and go do social things again. And again, like kind of this jazzier, but this has got a little bit faster, funkier vibe as well.
Салам, кто открывает эти двери без ключа. Если сильное плечо, то открывается с плеча. Эти двери без души, как и поддержка бот-чат. Не тревожь себя и двери по особым мелочам. Попей немного чая, кинь прикуску чак-чак. Не гони за чарт, ты не коин, ты не сапчак. Будь здоров! Надо бум-бэп, чака-там. Жизнь — это скелет, это знает Джеки Чан. Психика и мимика на грани слова шатка. Ты типа субстанция, а ты забытый шаттл. Штатно засыпаешь в фубу или шапке. День танец бубна, а неделя шафл. Я танцую шафл на работе в самолете. Мало надо сил с места двинуть мои ноги. Рамок нет нигде, даже в этом самолете. Я танцую, я танцую шафл на работе в самолете. Мало надо сил с места двинуть мои ноги. Рамок нет нигде, даже в этом самолете. Даже по авиарежиме на любых высотах.
Наш самолет набрал высоту 10 тысяч метров над уровнем моря. Температура за бортом минус 54 градуса по Цельсию.
Вот отсюда, да. Я нашел себе звезду из набора с позитивом.
So yeah, that is the Theg Vесна EP from HIPMA. Again, this is their technically third seasonal EP. We're going to get summer at some point this year. It's actually the second one that I've reviewed here and kind of shared with you. The fall one from last year, that was not the case. And yeah, this is the only hip-hop that I listened to this week. I think after last week and then I think a week or two before. It's been kind of hip-hop heavy so far in May. At least that's the feeling that I kind of had. And a lot of the stuff that I heard just wasn't clicking, just wasn't really doing anything interesting, or it was like too modern. I'm like too old school, I guess, too modern and out there. But yeah, this just definitely had that very like fun, sunny springtime vibe, and I was all about that. And yeah, I was enjoying it, having a good one, having a good time with it. So, but yes. So yeah, that's the only rap and hip hop release. And from there, we move on to electronic music. So, and the first one here, we have Сделка, века. And the artists, we have Директор, Всего, and I think it's Spock is how you pronounce it, but it's SP4K. I don't know how these artists actually want their names pronounced sometimes, but if you're looking for the artist, it is literally Latin or English Latin letters SP4K, but it might be pronounced like SPAC or Spock. You never know these days. Those kids with their silly. Actually, he's the older one here in the photo, but yeah, let's talk about this because this is an interesting one, and it's an album of electronic dance music with lyrics. Also, the artwork is fantastic. I'm just going to get that out of the way. It's absolutely lovely. It is a shot, I believe, of Moscow City, but I might be mistaken. And the framing's fantastic. But it's a album of electronic dance music with lyrics centered around modern business lexicon, which when repeated over and over and over again in accompaniment with those sort of like sometimes hypnotic, dancey beats, the lyrics become just like kind of absurd and hilarious at the same time. I don't know. I've seen people call this corporate house or office techno, but whatever this thing is, it's just musically actually pretty good, and the lyrics work, even though realistically they probably shouldn't. I understand it's kind of a gimmick, but sometimes gimmicks are okay, and gimmicks are fine because they fit a niche that we didn't really understand that we needed. So let's just kind of jump into it. Yeah. not ASAP, 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 по-русски.
Мне нужно это срочно, мне нужно это сейчас. Завтра будет поздно, нажмите все на газ. Для всего человечества я издаю указ. Вопросы, предложения решаются на раз. Асап, 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 асап. Асап, 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 асап. Когда даю задание, я говорю асап. На каждом совещании я требую асап. Когда перемещаюсь, я двигаюсь асап. Я строю свою жизнь по принципу асап, асап, асап. Асап, асап, асап. Асап, 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 асап. Асап, асап.
So, kind of like dirtier house vibe too. Maybe a little bit like Benny Benassi or Mr. Oizo. So, obviously the lyrics are all focused again around like material wealth and business stuff like Asa, the girl from Reception. Deal of the Century is literally how the name, the title track, and the title of the album translates. And it's not 3 a.m., that's Zam, which is like deputy director, so.
Стоит на входе при любой погоде. До офиса проводит, сложно думать о работе. Она приносит воду, я чувствую заботу. Стреляет глазками, я рад такому.
As I understand too, I should probably point this out. The director of the two, Dиректор Всего, is like a, I think like a TikTok style personality that this artist has kind of created for himself. He's done some other gimmicky things too, and that he actually tried this a year or two ago and it didn't really stick, and it wasn't until he teamed up with a slightly older producer, the SP4K, who kind of like got things put together. And maybe it's that older techno sound that kind of works because it's a throwback to the heady days here in Moscow when like Moscow City felt like 10 to 15 years ago, when it felt like big money and everything, and like this sort of corporate culture, soulless corporate culture, duchless for those who know. Anyway, yeah, musically it's fine. It's pretty fun. I think it's probably going to be a bigger hit, obviously, on social media / like TikTok and that type of stuff. Those little short video content forms where people can use the songs and have fun with it. But yeah, by itself, it's an enjoyable album. Probably not going to have like staying power. It's not an album that we're probably going to be talking about even a year from now, but it's just kind of fun and enjoyable. And again, we're in that time of the year when that type of music is what we want. Moving on, we have Antarsys. I think that's how, again, I have no idea how these people want their names pronounced, but I'm going with it. Antarsys, Antarsys, and the album is just called Soundtrack. So I don't listen to a lot of synthwave, largely because it often feels derivative and aimless, but from time to time something will come along and just grab your attention. And this is one such instance. Now, that might be because the artist on his Kontakte page states that he dreams that his music will wind up in games or in the film and TV industry. And you can kind of see that on the tracks on this album. They all feel like they have a sense of story. The album in general does too. It does kind of feel like it could be the soundtrack for some video game or retro-esque film or television show. There does seem to be a sense of story and purpose. And while it is something as an album that you can just easily put on and just have in the background or groove along to, the individual tracks here do have melodies, and there are moments in them that give them individual character, which I think a lot of times on synthwave is not the case. And they actually do have, like, they can be memorable if you give them a few listens. A few, like 2 or 3. After like a few times, you kind of like remember them. Obviously it's synthwave. It does have a level of repetitiveness, but that's okay. Like, there are video game soundtracks that we all know and love. Tetris, Mario, Legend of Zelda, things like that. So that type of music has its place. And obviously, this sort of darker synthwave thing too, I don't know how popular it is anymore because Stranger Things is not the hit thing that it was, but obviously Stranger Things is, I think, coming back this year, so maybe we'll see a resurgence in this type of sound again. But obviously the first season of that show really pushed that dark retro synthwave sound back to the forefront, and then the soundtrack to the horror film It Follows kind of did that too. But yeah, I'll quit yapping. Like, it builds, right? You can hear that. We've got the synths in the background now. Our arpeggios are rising upwards, and they're now getting supported with those, like, crunchier ones. Just want to, like, drive around in Knight Rider or something. Like, it's got character, right? It doesn't feel aimless like synthwave often can. Jump around. And, like, yeah, they're similar. It's synthwave, but it's still much lighter. Drums are a bit heavier here, so tracks do have personalities. Track titles to kind of help, like, give you some framing for the tracks of, like, where they would fit, obviously at this point in time, like in a video game type thing. And they feel like it too. I don't know if it was a thing where the artist wrote the tracks and then came up with titles for them, or like kind of imagined it as an old 16-bit video game, and then like worked around that. But so, and then we get like the sort of slow ride out of the album. But yeah, it's very nice. Again, like I said, synthwave, this sort of retro thing. I don't know how popular it is anymore. Obviously, there is a very active community for it online, but there's a very active community for anything online, so that's not saying much when dealing with this specific sound. I do feel like a lot of it is, like I said, kind of derivative and aimless. This does not feel like that to me, and yeah, it kind of grabbed my attention, even though it's not necessarily something I would maybe actively go seek. So yeah, the album is soundtrack. The artist is Antarsys. It's got some good vibes, got some fun ones too. And again, we're staring down the barrel of summer. It's right here, so put this on, jump into your old Camaro, and ride off into the sunset type thing. So that's it. That's also the end of electronic music for the week. So we're 3 deep out of 13, and I do want to say that it is an even split between rock and metal and pop and indie from here on out. So let's just keep moving along. The first album it says electronic, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So we have the EP Time to Speak by Radial Rails. This is the first one that I have in the rock and metal category. It says it's electronica, and I think that's a fair description. The reason that I included it in the rock and metal category is because I was listening to this a few times because it's quite short, and that's the one nice thing with EPs is that it's easy to burn through them multiple times. This reminded me of like Pet Shop Boys meets kind of 90s industrial music, like, I don't know, not KMFDM, but like closer to Front 242, which I guess is like maybe even a little bit before the 90s. It's largely instrumental except for the first track, but it's still got some nice drive. And I think it can work as a nice transition between electronic music and rock and metal. So, right, like it's definitely got an industrial vibe already. And industrial is definitely in the metal category. And that definitely is supposed to be Trump. There's like a whole political idea behind the EP. I started reading about it, just gave up. It seemed kind of generic, so I don't want to like... We're just going to let that be. White electronic. Wait for the singing. It's not as Pet Shop Boys as like it really struck me the first time I heard it, but still. So it is definitely very heavy electronica. But I feel like it leans more into the industrial, like electronic industrial, sure, that end of things. But it's going to act as the bridge here. So yeah, it's basically a kind of industrial electronic album, largely instrumental. Not much to it. It's quite short. I would say overall it's a nice listen if you're into that sound. That's kind of the caveat with most of this stuff. But yeah, that is the Time to Speak EP by Radial Rails. So now we move on to stuff that is more definitely in the rock category. So this is Moglо, быть, хуже, the EP by My Bad. I literally just have a one-sentence description. I feel like it's a debut release that runs the gamut of the alt-rock sound from the early 2000s. I'm just going to jump into it. You'll know it. You'll either enjoy that sound or got a little kind of even almost like pop-punky thing going on here. got the heavier one here now. Like, this is definitely more the alt rock sound. 20 some years ago. Even got the weird, like, filtered / muted vocals there. I mean, you get the idea. Got a little bit like the almost rap rock thing going on here. Not quite, but got that kind of delivery that's verging on it. So yeah, not the best alt-rock sound of the early 2000s, to be sure. It is a debut, so I'm kind of like figuring that into the equation as well. Again, I think I ran through this twice, and I had no qualms with it. Like, going through it a second time was still kind of enjoyable. Am I going to come back to it? Probably not, but it's worth a listen if that's your bag, that type of sound. And yeah, so anyway, that is Moglо, быть, хуже. It could be worse. That's the EP by My Bad. Okay, now, this next one here. Let's talk about this. This is a perfect example of why album artwork matters, okay? This is fucking horrible. Like, let's be real. I almost skipped this thing completely simply because of the artwork. This, like, naked angel lady, these, like, demons, and the font, the mixed font. It's just, like, it's bad. This is not good. This is the worst album artwork I think I've seen so far this year that, like, isn't intentionally bad, right? It is atrocious, but it's a good thing I didn't skip it. It's a good thing that I actually gave it a shot, because this is bluesy stoner doom that has a lot of the biker hard rock energy in the mix. It's got English lyrics. It's just like that sort of fist pumping, beer chugging, leather clad type of fun. It's actually a pretty good album, and they just really need to find a better art director there. So wait, jump into it a little bit, because these are long tracks. I'm not even going to show the album art. Well, yeah, I will. Just revel in this. It's not good. The music is. What direction? The artwork over here, not good at all.
When a group of them get together, they seem like barely tamed wild animals.
Again, that sort of bluesy stoner, right? Like, this feels like that doomy stoner. But then, actually, I think this track is pretty just, like, straightforward like that. You got some guitar solos in there.
wanted was a couple kegs of beer so we could all get drunk.
But then you got tracks like this that got a little bit of that sort of like hard rock biker energy, which it's like it's kind of fun. It's not self-conscious at all. It's just like, yeah, I want to drink some beer and like show off my tattoos and ride my motorcycle around the city, which is like fine. I don't care. Please don't ride your motorcycle around the city. Go take that out of the city. But it's fine. It's sort of like vibe that we got here. And the music is good, right? Like it's above proficient. It's enjoyable. I mean, it's not the next High on Fire or anything like that, but it's fun. I realize I did not say the name of the album or the artist, but you can see it. You've been able to see it this whole time. So yeah, that album is Rolling Human Sin, and the group is Iron Sect. So musically, good stuff. I'm not going to give it a numerical score because I ain't touching that. But in terms of artwork and even album title, probably go back to the drawing board or get some more feedback before the next album. But yeah, I hope to hear more from Iron Sect in the future. I did actually enjoy this album, and it is a solid one. And again, like songs that are largely over 6 minutes long, it's nice. It's refreshing. It feels arduous at times anymore in 2025. But speaking of long songs, we have Apnoэ. I know I'm mispronouncing that. I guess I can check right here. Let me. It's the Russian word for apnea. Where's the stress mark? Apnoэ. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still saying it wrong. I'd have to hear it. But anyway, that's the album. The group is Plastик. I suppose I should say to be more appropriate. I'm just going to start playing the music and then kind of give my feedback here. Album artwork here also is a bit odd. I felt like this was going to be some hyper poppy or like maybe even metalcore. I'm not really sure what's going on with like the brainstem and the whatever. So as you go through this album, what you realize is it's a sound that's going to call to mind like MTV from the 1990s. A lot of grunge, a lot of alternative with more classic metal elements in here. There are songs that call to mind Iron Maiden, others that are Jane's Addiction, anything Mike Patton, Silverchair at times as well. And there are also tracks that are reminiscent of Russian groups from the 90s into the early 2000s. This honestly also feels a bit like thrash metal, so. A lot of the sounds on this album are technically a bit before my time, before I really got into music, but I do remember all of those like groups and sounds of the 90s from like the local rock stations. They were the groups that, even if they weren't cutting edge or necessarily cool anymore by the time I got around to them, or like by the time I got around to consuming them, it was still distorted and heavy stuff, and I and my friends still ate it up. It was like what was available. This album kind of feels like that, like a hard rock station from anywhere USA. The radio stations that are basically classic rock at this point in time. Like, there are just a lot of different rock sounds on this album. And as is kind of commonly the place, like you wouldn't think that they would work neighboring each other, but they get by with it. Like, this is the Iron Maiden, right? Straight up Iron Maiden. But that's okay. Because before that, we had something completely different. And then you go on to the next track, and you get something different, but like still familiar, but not modern. Nothing from within the last 25 years, realistically. Maybe. Rather that acoustic, like this definitely feels product of maybe a generation or so ago. Got a like maybe System of a Down energy here. Okay, that's a little more recent than 25 years ago, but you get the point. But then, like, just chills way out. I mean, again, more than a kind of like almost new metal vibe. But this almost ends in like a weird Primus-esque funk type of, or I guess like the whole thing does have a Primus vibe to it as well, so. I could jump around, but like from, what is it? Like, I think what, like 4 or 5 tracks right there. You can already see that there's a wide variety of rock sounds here. And it is over a wide period of time. But it doesn't feel like they're actively trying to emulate them or it's like, hey, let's do a song where we specifically sound like this. No, it feels like these are people who, again, listened to the local rock station and just literally absorbed everything that was played there. And it was just like they didn't have any of that sort of gatekeeping thing for themselves. Just like, all of this I enjoy. It's all different. I'm just going to let this marinate. And then when it came time for them to actually like start playing music themselves, when they picked up instruments, they were just like, let's play a little bit of everything. And I appreciate that. It is so like in some senses, it's an album that could kind of appeal to a wide audience, but because it is so varied, it might be less appealing for that very reason, right? Like people who enjoy, I don't like 1 or 2 tracks might dislike the rest of them because it doesn't fit with that same vibe. But again, if you grew up with a local radio rock station, this is the type of album that will, I don't know, give you that reminiscent atmosphere of like just driving around and not knowing what type of song is going to come on next, but understanding that you've already heard all of them 100 times before. So even if it's one that you didn't really want to listen to, it's still fine because it's still a good song. So yeah, the group is Plastик and the album is Apnoэ. I'm probably butchering it. It's apnea in English, but in Russian it's Apnoэ. We're just going to leave it at that. Okay, top pick of the week for rock and metal is this thing. I I was gonna put this on the thumbnail, and I realized like this is way too abstract for the thumbnail. It's just like I don't even know. The group is couch surfing, and the album is Сквозь шум и тишину, through sound and silence. Yeah. What seems like it's going to be a set of shoegaze tracks. I really hope that does not pop up. What seems like it's going to be a set of shoegaze tracks, right, from the first album, or from the first, what's the word? Okay, no, it didn't. What seems like it's going to be a set of shoegaze tracks, good ones, I should mention, based on the sound of the first track. This album hides in its, it hides a depth and variety of sound, which I'm just going to call, and what I've also seen called indie gaze. So like indie shoegaze, very original, but whatever, naming conventions. It's a splicing of the classic shoegaze sound with more of the emotional indie rock, like that emotional bursting at the seams in terms of lyrics and delivery, kind of indie rock. I'll just say it reminded me of My Bloody Valentine at times, Silver Sun Pickups, circa Neck of the Woods, which I went back and re-listened to that album, and holy shit, that's a great album. And then at other times, Pink Shiny Ultra Blast for a more local Russian shoegaze reference. It's the debut album of a group that has already been in existence for 5 years. So for 5 years, they've just been slowly like releasing a steady trickle of songs, and this is their first album. It's, I would say, very worth the wait. A very mature sound. It's a lovely album. This is not the same as Isheka from last month, but it does feel like an album that is as solid and as deserving of praise / cult status. I think this is a really good album. I think this is going to be one that stands for a long time. So this is the album, or like this is the song that like when you first cue it up, you're just like, okay, this is shoegaze. Like we know this sound, right? It's not. But you hear like that. The vocals are a little bit too far forward, and the way that they're so emotive makes it a little bit different than just traditional shoegaze. So obviously shoegaze is at its core. But it's not that simple, right? There's obviously something more to it. Even like some of that sort of maybe even dream pop at times. Kind of hear that a little bit on this track. And the album is like consistent all the way through, consistently good. Only a few tracks I didn't heart, and I probably could have done the 10th one as well. I just like by that point in time understood that I wasn't gonna be able to highlight every single one of them here, so. Like this, what is it, like, Block Party? It's got that energy right there. Like, it's good. It's a very good album. All right, one last one. So a little more dialed back in terms of distortion as well. At least in part. Even if shoegaze isn't necessarily your thing, first of all, this isn't exactly shoegaze, right? I don't want to like pretend like that's what this is, because it's clearly not. Just it's heavily influenced like that. But even if it's not your thing, this isn't an album that just like it's good. I use the comparison to Dinosaur Jr. probably too much here, but I do love Dinosaur Jr. It's one of those groups that I don't actively listen to all that often, but if you were to put Dinosaur Jr. on, I could easily sit down and just listen to multiple albums straight, because it's a group that it's like when they record an album, they just get into a zone, and even if things are sonically kind of the same, from track to track, you can feel that transformation, right? It's like watching a lava lamp, but slightly more active. And this album has that same energy. There's also just like, even though it's kind of buried in the sound and everything too, there's a lot of emotion here. And a lot of time with sort of shoegaze, a lot of time with shoegaze, the emotion is a bit more muted or laid back or defeated or whatever you want to call it. Here it's more delivered and in your face, so yeah. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up with that one, at least for this album and this segment. But the group is Couch Surfing. I should probably say Couch Surfing. And the album is Skvozь шум и тишину. I think this is one of those albums that, like I said, probably will develop pretty solid cult status. I don't think this is going to explode to the forefront of anything, but it's a very good album. It's solid all the way through, and I would say like it really deserves your attention. I think this is one of those that like has some staying power that you come back to it in a while. We'll find out though. By the end of the year, maybe things will have changed, but yeah. I think this is the best like rock/metal thing I heard this week. But let's move on to pop and indie. So again, we have an electronic one, but we're going to talk about this. First up, we have an EP, P.Y.T, pretty young thing, by Goth Girl. This is electro pop. It's got a layer of the modern auto-tuned pop rap lyrically, but that kind of takes something of a backseat to the music, which is probably for the best. This is just kind of short and mindless, but it is fun and catchy, and that's kind of a theme. It's kind of like what I've been into. This probably could have easily been in the electronic section as well, but whatever, I'm going to throw it here. Slightly freaky album artwork. Sounds like the track Jerk It. A little bit. I think also some people would probably try to label this off as like rap or hip hop, but no, that's not happening. So yeah, a little out there. It is incredibly short, though. You can literally just put this on repeat and like probably listen to it 10 times within an hour. So I wouldn't recommend doing that, but it's definitely fine. Yes. So yeah, this is the P.Y.T EP by Goth Girl. All right. Now we're getting into some better stuff. So the next one, I'm going to have to bust out my Spanish here. La nostalgia lleva mi nombre. Or lleva mi nombre. Lleva mi nombre. I don't know. Anyway, it's been a while. Spanish is not really my thing anymore. But yeah. So this is actually a joint project by a Russian artist, ooes. I don't know how you pronounce ooes, ooes, and a Spanish artist, Pantera Blue. So it's a project that kind of grew out of just a comment. I don't know who left the first comment, but one of the artists left a comment on another's post or thing online, and they started communicating, and they decided to do a project together. I'm assuming maybe ooes is in Spain, or maybe they did it remotely. But we have 4 tracks of kind of this melancholic indie pop. But what is great is they weave the 2 languages together. It goes from Spanish to Russian, back to Spanish. And what's interesting is even though I know Russian and I can obviously identify Spanish when it's being sung, I don't really even notice the transition from one to the other. Like, it just flows. It weaves back and forth so well. It feels completely natural. And yes, this type of project, it's the type of project that, albeit kind of a long distance one, that you hope will continue, and that like these 2 artists will continue to work together and produce more stuff like this, like even a full length. This is very nice. So I'm just going to get into it. Let this play for a while too. Great track, but wait for the Russian to appear. Torn Russian now, but it goes back to Spanish too. So again, that just kind of like back and forth. I would love a full album of this. I am just gonna be completely honest. It's got a slinkiness to it, which I absolutely adore. click back over to Spanish. But like, if you're not really paying attention to it, and if you don't really know either of the languages, then you probably aren't gonna notice it. It just like goes. It's just got like such a nice vibe, that like sort of really lo-fi, like a trip hop element to it as well. So yeah, very nice EP. I'm just gonna continue to talk over it because I want to listen to it a little bit more. But yeah, this is ooes, or ooes, OOES, is the Russian artist, and then Pantera Blue is the Spanish artist. And the EP is La nostalgia lleva mi nombre. Beautiful. All right, moving on. We go from one wonderful EP into the next. This is Секреты опытных шофёров by YERKATT. I got to talk a little bit. So YERKATT actually put out an album last year. I'm going to show it to you right now because I think even if you're not onto this album right here, Праздник ожидания праздника, this is an absolutely phenomenal indie pop, just like indie rock album. I kid you not, when I first put this on last year, the first time I listened to it and the opening track and I started listening to it, I got tears. And I was just like, I was so just moved by it. It's such a good album. I absolutely love this thing. So, YERKATT releases an EP, right? And I was expecting something like a continuation of last year's album. That is very much not this. Although there are moments like it. I'm going to highlight that to be sure. The press release, though, behind this EP explains why it's not that. These are unrelated song snippets, ideas which appeared to YERKATT principally behind the wheel and on the road. In the trunk, a collection of poems. In his head, a chaos of foolish thoughts and love of people and nearby favorite passengers and random travelers. On the exit, 4 songs. Light post-punk about impenetrable foolishness. Mountain pop about conversations on all the rooftops of the world with Basic Boy, who is an artist that we've actually talked about here as well. He had a very nice album a few months ago. A light ballad about paranoia in the decorations of spring, and mysterious boom bap about the East and West together with Oleg from LSP and the Yakut artist Iulina. So yeah, basically this is just a collection of random songs that YERKATT had that he kind of came up with on the thing. And realistically, after I understood that that's what this was, that feels good, right? EPs are supposed to do one of two things. It's supposed to be a place for artists to just throw out random ideas and kind of let people see their creative process and also like what's going on. And it's a way for them also, I guess, in a way to sort of see and gauge maybe what sounds are interesting or what kind of avenues to further explore that their fan base are reacting to. Or it's a chance for an artist to take a tentative first step in transforming their sound. So YERKATT here, and again, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing his name right, YERKATT. He's an interesting, he's from Yakutsk, or the Yakutia region, which is in the Russian far, far east, like up Arctic, getting close to Alaska, that sort of far northeast. But he has Armenian heritage, Armenian roots. So it's an interesting mix. Anyway, that's kind of beside the point. What was I going on about? Anyway, I was going on about how, like, this is just, it's kind of, like, interesting. He's just, like, throwing out ideas, and, yeah, some of them stick better than others. But this is still a very enjoyable EP. It's definitely not on the same level as last year's album, Праздник ожидания праздника. But this EP, Секреты опытных шофёров, is still very good. And it's a chance for him to stretch his wings and try out some new ideas. Then absolutely. He's kind of one of the new hot names in the Russian indie scene, and there is a reason for it. So let's just get into it. So this is the song about conversations on roofs all around the world. Calls it mountain pop, but I would say it's more doo-wop.
Соседских квартир я занят лишь тем, чтоб скорей натянуть на планету презерватив. Мы все сувенир, граждане, мы
Still very beautiful. And this is the mysterious boom bap about East and West together.
Rest in peace. Или смирись, или убей себя за забором. Соберут по весне нас сироток на виселице. Отдыхай, веселись и не спи. Спи о найденных псах, спи о берцах на гвоздях. Снится как листья среди гор.
And then the third song, we're not going to touch the first one. The first one's the one, probably my least favorite, but it's not a bad one. Созвездие Ослика is the track which, in my opinion, is most reminiscent of his past album, the album from last year. So, again, not exactly the same, but it has that same indie atmosphere. I gotta go back to where he first breaks into it, sorry. Like, it reminds me a little bit of Grizzly Bear, which is this is so good. I love this. Like how everything just kind of this is, I don't know, maybe I'm way off here and I'm just like, but this is really good. I love this song. This is like the same energy from last year's album, so if this is your thing, go check that album out as well. But anyway, I'm not gonna sit here and listen to the whole thing, although easily could. Yeah, wonderful EP. I do hope we see another full length from YERKATT in maybe this year or early next year. We'll just have to see. Regardless, it's nice to get an EP out of him. So yeah, that is YERKATT, and the EP is Секреты опытных шофёров, the secrets of experienced chauffeurs. All right, and now we come to the final two here. This is new Sylveon with, oh, God help me, Narrativchiki. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. Narrativchiki. There's too many F's there. It's on Narrativchiki. Anyway, I was thinking a little bit about this when listening to it and I was thinking about Girl Talk and the blender sound of Girl Talk. Also, if you don't know who Girl Talk is, go check it out because phenomenal. I still love it. But the blender sound of Girl Talk, which was just like put all of the last 40 years of the Billboard Top 100 into the hands of a DJ and just let them slice and slash and mix everything together, was probably the forerunner of what is now hyperpop in some ways. With the way it just forced genres and samples together that in a normal person's mind were worlds apart. Hyperpop, which is something that is definitely born of the internet, just took that lack of formal division, or took the lack of formal division between genres, and like that you can't have country music together with techno, that everything can just exist simultaneously and right next to each other. hyperpop just kind of takes that as a given in some ways. This album is hyperpop. It says alternative, but that is not the case. It just jumps from genre to genre, between tracks, even within them. But it does so with agility. It never feels forced or even inept. This is an album that, when we talk about classical music, there's the concept of potpourri or a medley, right? A medley is one song that has snippets of other songs within it. Potpourri is when you have a selection of popular songs that kind of come one right after the other. This basically feels like that, where it feels like you're getting this mash of things, but it's not chaotic. It's sort of organized, but it's also designed to highlight a bunch of different ideas and concepts. So I'm just going to put it on. Wonderful album artwork too. Very clear distinction between those two tracks. But we still have the distorted guitars here as well. And then we have like an, I don't know, I'm like, this is like an all rock sound, Smashing Pumpkins-esque. Yeah, like Billy Corgan could be singing from the top of this. But we don't get that. For sure, the auto-tune might be grating to some. I can fully understand that. But, like, for sure, there's guitar and synth, and there's, like, a drive with what I'm sure is a drum machine of some sort, but it doesn't, you can't, like, pin it down exactly. It's not alternative, it's not alt rock, it's not pop music, it's not electronic music. It is... It's also not rap music. It's just everything all at once. Well, it's not country music. It's not country music, so... But like just that absolute mixing of sounds and just putting everything together. Again, with the exception of the auto-tune, I think, you know, there shouldn't be any issues here for most people. So it's a little bit of everything, but combined into its own thing. Again, I've used this analogy before, but I feel like it is still appropriate here. It's like doing the trash can thing with the soda fountains at a fast food chain, where you just like press a little bit of each flavor into your cup, and it doesn't really taste like anything, but it kind of tastes like everything at the same time. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a shit ton of sugar, and that's kind of what we got here. So yeah, that album is... The artist is New Sylveon, and the album title is Narratif Chiki. I'm again assuming that's how we pronounce this, but all right. best album of the week, or the one that I'm going with, the one that I thought was, even though it does not have as many hearts as some of the other ones, the artist Lebovski. We actually had a Lebovski not long ago. Or no, we had... Never mind, I take that back. I got confused. The song title was Glebovski. But yeah, the artist is Lebovski, and the album is Milomaniachka. I think I got that right. So yeah, I'm not going to waste any time with this. I think this is probably one of the best pop albums of the year so far. There's a very healthy dose of indie in this as well. It is a debut album. The title here gives us a bit of a clue as to what we got here. We got multiple influences. It's something crafted by somebody who has been consuming any and every music from a young age, which, again, is super easy if you grew up with the internet. And as is the case with modern music, especially hyper pop or whatever, all of this feels at home next to each other. Sorry. Not sure what that was all about, but there are some songs that aren't as strong as others, but I wouldn't say that there is a bad song on the album. This is all very good. I also found out that Lebovski is kind of a TikTok personality, but since I don't give a shit about TikTok, I don't really know. And honestly, I don't think that really influences the strength or the weakness of an album in any way. So yeah, let's just get into this. Like from the first two tracks, we feel like there's like a lot of like 80s influence or something on there. Maybe there is, but it obviously does not end there. Obviously, the fact that evidently the artist is like heavy into TikTok, there is like I think a level of self-consciousness or like sort of thinking, keeping that in mind when composing some of the tracks. So.
Знай, я правда не права. И если хочешь, прости, мне не нужны слова. Просто меня отпусти, я падаю на дно.
Just very strong in terms of like song composition, how they evolve and shift a little bit, but not too much.
Слушай внимательно, не твое прилагательное. Ты говоришь, с мужиком все понятно, он устроен однозначно. Но женщине должна же быть какая-то загадка. Должна. Мамуля, мамуля, мамочка, прикрыта листопадом лавочка.
background. I'm not even sure what that is, but so you can hear, right? There's like just all these different sounds across the different tracks. But it all works. And I'm not even going to talk about the lyrics because the lyrics are at times, I guess I am talking about them right now. Like they're at times sharp and pointed, witty. A lot of times they're also kind of silly, like maybe more for TikTok or something like that. But ultimately, they're still well written. This is the bonus track, technically, you can see, but I felt like it's worth including because it's got the acoustic thing going on too. Feels a bit more like maybe classic indie. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it off there. It's already been kind of in it for a while, so yeah, I'm kind of the top pick for the week in general, especially for pop and indie. That is Lebovski with Melamaniachka. Again, I assume I'm putting the stress mark in the right place, but I know it's like Melamania, so Melamaniachka. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a very good album. Just a good pop album all around, and I feel like this is one that will hold up, and like again, come the end of the year, will definitely be one that we'll talk about again. But yes, okay, so that about covers it. Pretty good week for music, all things considered. We had a nice mix of things. Wasn't too heavily dominated by one genre or another, and I didn't have to listen to a lot of garbage, which is always pleasant. I guess I'm looking forward to this next week. There are a few, there's a big hip-hop release coming out with Jimbo tomorrow, and then probably some other stuff I don't know about, but we'll get to that next week. Even though next week we are going to be in June, like I said at the beginning, because Russian albums tend to be released on Friday, as Friday is still within May, we're next week largely going to be discussing still May releases. That's just kind of how it works. So yeah, I'll have a chance to get to some of that stuff that I didn't really get to this week as well. And I think this next week I'll probably have a bit more time. So God help me, I will try to do a better job of getting through it faster because I only had 13 albums and I'm already an hour and 20 minutes into this. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'll be back. Even though we're going to move into June, I'm just going to keep next Thursday at 10 p.m. Maybe we'll be shifting the schedule in the near future, but next Thursday, 10 p.m., I'll be doing the live stream again with music. And then obviously on Sunday and Wednesday at 9 p.m., then obviously Moscow times, Sunday and Wednesday, 9 p.m., I will be doing my kind of like news recaps, just like what's been going on here in the country. But yeah, so sounds good. I hope you found something that you are interested to listen to, that worth checking out. And I'm gonna call it there. Everyone have a good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is. Everyone out there, take care of themselves. I will see you when I see you. Until then, пока-пока.